Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're wrestling with a pretty significant question, really. What's the actual value of, literary perfection when you're talking about deep, unspoken emotional pain? That kind of hurt. That's so personal. You just can't even find the words for it.
Exactly. That internal struggle, the
It's,
silence.
yeah,
That's the territory we're exploring today, and we're doing it through Pandora Owl's book, Things We Don't Talk About. It's independently published.
right. And that title alone, it really grabs you, doesn't it? Promises something hidden. So our deep dive today is basically looking at this book, the content, what kind of book it even is, and how people reacted to it. Just the facts for you. It's a pretty short paperback, maybe 103, 104 pages. Came out in 2019.
hmm And it's really a collection of, well, thoughts, quotes, some very short, kind of fragmented pieces, all centered on depression, mental health, and that weight of silence.
And our goal here for you listening is to figure out how this collection, which is pretty minimalist structurally, and let's be honest, has faced some criticism about its writing, how it still manages to connect so deeply with people.
Yeah, it's about understanding that mix, that sort of alchemy of vulnerability and just how easy it is to access.
We should be super clear. This is definitely not a traditional novel. Don't expect that. It's not a formal poetry collection either. It's more like, well, like reading someone's very raw journal entries almost. A very specific kind of thing.
Exactly, which takes us right to the heart of what this book is.
Ah.
It really presents itself as a raw, completely unfiltered look into, as the author puts it, the darkest places your mind can take you. It doesn't pretty it up. It just lays it out there.
And it seems very deliberate, this focus on the stuff usually left unsaid, mental illness, the stigma around feeling, too much, the difficulty of talking about pain society tells us to just bury.
And the structure, the format, it's completely tied to that goal. You mentioned the short quotes, the reflections.
Hmm.
The author chose brevity, immediacy, not dense writing. The style is minimalist, maybe because it has to be, to convey that feeling.
Help me unpack that a bit. Why does that minimalist style work so well for people feeling isolated? Is it just that if you're really struggling, you don't have the energy for like a 300-page deep dive?
That's definitely part of it, I think. When you're in deep, sustained focus well, it's often just not there. The way the writing is broken up, fragmented, it kind of mirrors how your thoughts can feel when you're anxious or depressed.
Mm.
You can pick it up, read literally one sentence, and feel seen instantly. No big commitment needed.
Ah, okay. That instant recognition, that seems to be the key. We saw this again and again in the reviews and comments we looked at. One person put it perfectly, capturing that emotional hit. These little sentences and texts were so deep because I could feel every word.
That feeling of validation, that aha moment, that relief in just one raw sentence, that's absolutely the book's like superpower. It gives voice to the unspoken. It makes the silent pain feel allowed.
So the core message is really quite simple but powerful. You're not alone. And even if you can't say it out loud, it's okay to feel what you've been holding down.
Which brings us nicely to its strengths, right? Why it's so relatable, especially considering the format.
Okay, let's get into that accessibility. It keeps coming up as a quick read, but one that really lands for people dealing with anxiety, depression, that kind of emotional quiet. We saw that quote, real, raw, and emotional quick read. I could feel something. That speed, that quick hit seems vital.
Yeah, it uses its shortness really effectively. And I think the power comes from its honesty. It's totally uncompromising. It doesn't try to make the pain sound poetic or, find some grand meaning in it. It just states the reality of the struggle, often in really plain, direct words.
And maybe for readers who are tired of like perfectly curated social media lives or that sort of performative vulnerability, maybe seeing something without any pretense is actually healing, a relief.
I think that's absolutely right. That lack of pretense creates a safe space. If the author tried to wrap it all up in fancy metaphors or complex literary stuff, sure, maybe it's better writing by some standards, but you'd lose that immediate gut punch recognition. Keeping language basic makes it totally accessible. Zero barrier to entry.
And the audience, too. We have to think about that. The short quotes, the poem-like format, it's super easy to digest, especially maybe for younger readers or anyone who feels overwhelmed by big, dense books when they're already struggling. It just meets them right there.
Definitely. And that accessibility feeds right back into the main theme. That core idea that the things we don't talk about, they often hurt way more. The silence has a cost. The book makes you feel that internal cost.
Okay. So we've established the book clearly has this strong emotional pull, this resonance. But now, to get the full picture, we really need to look at the other side. The criticisms, the structural stuff, the writing itself, based on our sources.
Right. And this is what gets interesting, that tension between the raw feeling and, well, technical skill. Because that minimal structure, the very thing making it accessible, that's also what many critics and readers pointed to as a weakness.
Yeah, they didn't just say it was short. They used words like messy. Readers who maybe expected a more, I don't know, organized collection felt let down. They talked about specific structural things like describing it as chaotic. It seems chaotic and unorderly. There was no pacing.
Which raises that tricky question about intent, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is the lack of clear pacing deliberate? Is it meant to mirror the chaos inside someone's head? Or is it just, well, maybe a lack of rigorous editing or structural development? For some people, that perceived chaos wasn't relatable. It was just frustrating.
And looking at the feedback, it seems many critics didn't really give the author the benefit of the doubt there. They went straight for the writing quality itself. Technical things. We saw direct comments like, grammar errors are not it. And apparently, lots of Amazon reviews mention issues with capitalization, punctuation, basic sentence structure.
And, that
Yeah.
stuff can matter. Because technical errors, even small ones, can break the spell. They can pull you out of the emotional experience if you keep stumbling over them. And it brings us back to the fact that this is independently published. It might not have had the same layers of professional editing you get from a big publishing house.
So it really sounds like a classic case of mismatched expectations, depending on who's reading it.
Mhm.
If you come to this book expecting, say, a polished poetry anthology following all the rules, or some deep, structured exploration, the sources suggest you might well walk away feeling a bit disappointed.
Absolutely. And the sheer brevity contributes to that. Just over 100 pages with very short entries on each page. It led some people to feel like it was more of a personal journal, maybe published a bit too quickly. Rather than feeling like a complete, fully developed anthology, they felt it lacked a certain depth they expected from the genre.
There was one comment that really seemed to capture both sides perfectly. It acknowledged the emotional goal, but pointed out the execution issues. Something like, I felt a glimpse of what the author was going for, but it did not give what was promised by the title. Like it hinted at this big revelation about unspoken things, but for that reader, the raw, minimal style didn't quite deliver fully.
That really is the core tension, isn't it? The very rawness and immediacy that makes it so validating for some. That's also what holds it back from meeting traditional literary standards for others.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together for you listening. What's the takeaway here? On one hand, you have a book with this undeniable emotional connection, incredible accessibility. It's like a quick, low effort way to feel understood, connecting instantly with people who are hurting.
And on the other hand, you have these pretty significant critiques about the structure, the pacing, organization, grammar, a sense that it lacks sustained depth when you measure it against, say, conventional poetry or memoir standards.
So ultimately, the success of things we don't talk about, despite the flaws, really shows there's a huge appetite out there for just raw vulnerability. It kind of worked as a shortcut to connection. It put that emotional authenticity, that immediate relief of feeling seen, way above polished writing.
Yeah, it suggests maybe the way we measure value is shifting, at least for some readers in some contexts.
Yeah.
If you're feeling isolated, maybe the perfect grammar of a sentence matters less than the emotional truth it hits you with.
So this book, indie published, loved for its rawness, even with known flaws, it leaves us with a really important final thought for you to chew on. When we're talking about mental health, about really deep internal struggles in a world already overflowing with polished, maybe even manufactured content, how much does that traditional literary polish actually matter compared to the immediate, unfiltered, and maybe even life-saving relief of feeling completely, utterly understood?